Now we've been through the planning phase and we're moving into the actual coding and testing phases of this ALM lifecycle, DevOps pipeline. If you take a look at the screen, you're going to find some of the steps that are commonly done in here. We write the code, run some unit tests, do some version control work, some build verification, and then we're going to dump it out into a release. So again, the best way for you to be able to get a feel for this gut-wise is to take a look at it in action. And to do that, again, Colin, back over to you.
Indeed. Thank you, Steve. So if you look at my browser, you'll see I'm on the My Work dashboard now. So here's another dashboard, which I've customized so that every team member gets this particular view so they can see exactly what work is assigned to them. And there you'll see the change discount work item that's assigned to me. And if I click that, it'll open this up. Now, we didn't add descriptions here, but you can imagine that someone from the business has gone and added some descriptions, some criteria and so on. But I do get to see which test cases are coming, which was going to help me as I develop this feature or fix the bug, whatever the work is. So I'm ready to start doing some development on this work item. So there is a development tag here. There is a development tab here, and you'll see there's a Create New Branch link. So I'm going to click Create New Branch, and that's going to launch a Create New Branch dialog, and we'll call this branch MVA Demo.
Perfect.
And we're going to base it off the master branch of the Parts Unlimited repo, and it's going to be automatically linked to the work item that we're branching from. So let me go and create that branch.
Now I've got to take a quick sidebar here. We're using Git, and Git is a branch-friendly version control environment. Branches are extraordinarily lightweight, and most people's delivery cadences when they're in Git are very fast delivery cadences with these types of small branches. Now, if you're using TFVC, Team Foundation Version Control, it's a centralized version control repository, and you might have a little different workflow. But I love this workflow. And the fact that you can go in and create a branch right from your work item and establish that linkage is very, very powerful. In fact, the way you and I did software development when we were building Visual Cadence was we took the development, we had a work item, and every work item had its own branch. Every feature level thing we built had its own branch. And then we'd build 2 or 3 of those per day. So we're talking 2 to 3 different branches per day.
Right.
So it's, again, a little different feel. And I love the way they've integrated it right into the work item itself.
Right. So it's taken me over to the Source Control Explorer, the file view, where I can see exactly what the source code is on this particular branch. You'll see we're on the MVA demo branch. Now, before we continue here, I wanted to show a feature which is smoking hot. It's called branch policies. So let me open up the repository settings, and I'm going to expand the Parts Unlimited repo. You'll see we have a number of branches here, but I'm going to click on the branch policies for the master branch. So we don't want anyone to just check any code into our master branch. Now with Git, the master branch is just, by convention, the branch that has our most stable code on it. But these policies allow us to actually enforce that we only want stable code on the master branch. So we're saying that the only way you can get changes into the master branch, you can't commit directly onto the master branch. You'll have to do what's called a pull request. And we'll see this a little bit later on. So the pull request is the mechanism where I can say, I've made some changes. I would like the team to review it, approve it, and then once we've given the OK on those changes will then be merged into the master branch. So here I can specify when the team member says, I'm ready, I have this code that I would like to merge into master via this pull request, we want a particular build to be queued off so we can run some build verification tests and make sure we have good quality. So we're specifying the Parts Unlimited build, which we will show you in a future demo. We can then also specify when the build needs to be queued. We can even block pull requests until there's a valid build.
So I love this. Again, you're right. This is very beautiful because what we're able to do is say, in order for you to do a pull request from your branch into master, you have had to run a successful build. And that in and of itself stops developers from accidentally tripping over themselves with some of the common, simpler mistakes that sometimes happen when you're coding quickly.
Right. So the next thing is we can specify merge requirements, and there's some settings there I'm not going to cover. Work item linking requirements. If you're changing code in our code base, we want to know why you made those changes. So linking them to work items is a great idea, because if the work you're doing isn't linked to a work item, why are you doing it?
And particularly when you come back to that and you're in any kind of audit scenario or anything, you'll want to know, why were these changes made? Plus, change reports, build reports, what's different between versions. This is so valuable to get. It just kind of drops out. I love it.
And finally, there's a code review requirements section here where we can actually specify, and I'm going to do this now, require a minimum, and I'll put 1 reviewer. We can decide whether we want users to approve their own changes or not. Typically, you won't do that. And we'll save those changes. So we've been able to go and use VSTS to enforce quality and enforce good practices in the team just by managing the policies. Let's go back to the code hub. And I'm going to expand down. I'm going to make sure I'm in the MVA demo branch. And we'll expand down to the discount code, which sits in our home view. Now again, typically developers would not be editing in VSTS. They'd be opening up Visual Studio Code, Visual Studio, Eclipse. There's even Visual Studio for Mac. They could be working in Xcode. Again, where you're working and how you're editing your code is of no concern to VSTS as long as you push your code there. But for this demo, I'm going to do this here. And you'll see on line 28, we have 25% as the discount. So I'm going to change this, hit Edit, and I'm going to change this to our new percentage.
And I love that you now have a commit that you have to, this is a change. You're making it on the server, but it still needs to be logged as a change. You're not sneaking anything by VSTS.
Right, so if I save that change, you'll see I get a commit hash that says we've updated the code for that branch. And so any changes I've made through this editor or through my IDE of choice will end up in a unique commit, which is identified by this hash. So this is just Git. So we've checked that change in, and now that I've committed that change in, if we go back to the home page, you'll see I get this little blue notification at the top of my file view, which says, you've updated the MVO demo branch. Would you like to now create a pull request? So at this point, I've done what typical developers do. We've changed some code. We haven't run any build tests. We haven't run any unit tests yet, right? But fortunately for us, the build is going to run those. So let's create the pull request. And here I get to review all of the changes and commits that go into this pull request. You'll see that it's automatically linked to the work item we were working on because that's how we created the branch. And down here I can see all of the commits. In this case, we only have 1. And I get to see a side-by-side view of what changes have been made. So let me create the new pull request for that. So that pull request is now created. And you can see the policies in the upper left-hand side. We're seeing that we don't have a reviewer approval yet, so we failed that policy. The work items are linked, and the build is not yet run. If I refresh this page, we should see that the build is in progress. So automatically, VSTS has queued off the build that we set up in the policies. And again, we'll get to the build definition shortly, but that build is going. Now, what you don't see here on the policies, and it's kind of a pity you don't see this in the UI, but what often happens when you try and merge code in is you get merge conflicts.
Yes, you do.
So what's actually happened is VSTS has gone and taken the code changes that I've made. It's tried to do a merge into the master branch. It's detected that there are no merge conflicts, and so it hasn't reported anything up to me. Now, if there were merge conflicts, there'd be another failure in the policy section that would inform me that your code cannot be merged automatically from your source branch into master. So I would see that.
And that enforces a good policy, which is to take the changes in master and pull them into your branch first, resolve the changes in your branch, do the builds, and then push back to master.
Absolutely.
So a build is in progress.
Yes.
What's going on there? How do we get a build in progress?
So the build was, there's a number of ways of triggering the build. In this case, the build was triggered because of the code review policy, or the pull request policy that we set up on that branch. So we said whenever someone creates a pull request that's going into master, it needs to trigger the parts unlimited build.
Love it. If you want to quickly pop down to my slides, I want to talk a bit about something that you're seeing, which is called continuous integration. And here's where anytime we make a change to the source or have some policy, like we're pulling it to master, we want to trigger a build which will automatically trigger some tests. This is definitely an amazingly good practice, and we're actually going to see the results of this coming up in a future demo. So I think that that's very powerful. It lets us accelerate delivery, gives us some real strong repeatability, helps us get a good feel for what's happening. And if there is a magic wand that can be waved somewhere in software development, continuous integration is one of those.
Yep.
Absolutely.
This is such a fundamental practice. If you're not doing continuous integration, you should be. It is just so fundamental to the rest of DevOps, and we'll see why in the next couple of demos.